Hi, I'm Lou Scott, and this is the Geppetto Room, where you don't have to be creative to be creative. You just have to be you. Because here we're going to explore and explain techniques and methodologies to make it easier for you to make better transformative decisions. Decisions that are going to enrich the way you live, the way you work, the way you play in our state. Now today, I'm going to talk about a transformative process, a process to enrich the downtown areas that need enrichment in our state. I'm going to talk about specific ideas I have for Rutland and some ideas that maybe just will stimulate ideas on your own part. There's a lot of towns in our state that need to be revitalized economically. And it's very important because if we don't economically revitalize our downtown areas, it's going to affect the economics of the whole state. And most importantly, it's going to affect our ability to actually invite people, young people, millennials, centennials, the kids who are 29 years old now, oldest ones, to our state. The towns that we have must resonate for them. And if we don't do that, if we don't enrich our towns and revitalize them, we're not going to get those kids here. And we need that. We have a demographic problem in our state, and we have to get young people to come in. Now, I know there is much going on about revitalizing downtown. A lot of people, a lot of resources are being used, but it's not enough. We have to do more. And to prove that, go to the average town that needs revitalization. You'll find a lot of empty stores, a lot of storefronts, a lot of tenants not there, and not the people that should be there. People are not coming. So that no matter what we do, we still have to do more. Now remember what I always say about ideas and more. You can't solve new problems with old ideas. Because the old ideas probably created the new problems that you have right now. We have to be transformative in our ideation. Now, my approach to revitalizing downtown areas is much different than what's currently being done. What's currently being done is that we spend a lot of resources and a lot of time inciting people, incenting people to come to our state, to come downtown and so forth, to live in our state. I say you got to do it the opposite way around. What we have to do is, instead of asking for them to bring their vibe with them, whatever that might be, wherever business they come or the tenants they come with their own vibe, we have to create a vibe in our environment. If we create it first in the environment, the downtown areas in our towns, people will come and add their own vibe. That's what I believe. Now, you're probably asking right now, what do I mean by vibe? Well, let me explain that in several definitions. Physicists tell us that nothing is solid. Whatever we see, tables, chairs, microphones, pictures, lights, is a convention of the brain to show solid. Everything is not solid. What everything is energy. Everything is moving. Everything has vibration. Everything has vibes. Now, spiritual people tell us that if we increase our own vibe, even our body is vibrating, moving, increase our own vibe, we get closer to the gods. Well, whatever that means. Then there's an interesting definition I want to read that to you, by Nikola Tesla. He was an inventor, turn of the century, and foremost inventor. And this is what he said about life. He said, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, now we don't want to do that. What we want to do is just enrich our downtown area. The secrets of the universe, think in terms, and here's the energy, frequency, and vibration. Energy, frequency, and vibration, the vibes. Now your question has to be, what does it have to do with enriching downtown, all these definitions? Well, there's one final definition. Condé Nast, which is a world-renowned international travel agency, once a year, what they do is they do a piece of research trying to determine the 50 best towns in the world, not only in the United States, in the world. And towns like Laguna Beach in California, you have Salzburg in Austria, you have Alexandria, Virginia, you have Sedona, Arizona, towns like that. Now, they do this piece of research, and one of the indicators that they use, one of the parameters that they use for the research, is interesting. It's called a vibe. And here's their definition of a vibe, of a town. They define the definition of a vibe as the emotional frequency, the energy that the environment projects. When you go into that particular environment, any town, any place, what is the environment projecting? That's the vibe of the area. That's what I'm saying we should be able to develop before we invite people into our towns. Now, they take that parameter, the vibe, and they divide it into two parts. One is natural vibe, and one is created vibe. Now, a natural vibe would be like Laguna Beach, which has the Pacific Ocean, or Sedona, which has the red rocks, the spirituality of the red rocks. A created vibe would be, there's a town in California called Salve. Salve is a Danish village. They created a Danish village. It looks like Christmas every day. Christmas, it even smells like Christmas because they have all these bakeries. They created that. They created Alexandria in Virginia. The buildings themselves have this feeling of antiquity, of energy, government. That's the vibe of the place. That's a created vibe. You have to create the vibe. Now, many of our towns need creative vibes. There are certain towns, Woodstock, Burlington, various towns like that have a natural vibe. But most towns need to create a vibe. I'm going to give you a process. Now, here's my idea about creating a vibe for a downtown area, and in particular, I'm dealing with Rutland. Although these ideas, as I said, are applicable to any town, if you follow this process. Now, let me tell you about the process. The first thing you want to do, say to yourself, is, what kind of vibe do I want? What do I want my vibe? What do I want the emotional frequency, the vibration in my downtown area? If the problem is, and it is, to bring young people down, then the vibe has to resonate to young people, have to be attentive to them. It has to be something that they want to be involved with, that they want to become to. Okay. So now, there are many books and resources involved about what the millennial is, what he wants, what's his dreams are, what's his complaints, what does he want to see out of his life, okay, and the centennials. I'm not going to go through that. That's very available, but I'm going to give you 3 or 4 parameters I think you can start with to start the process of understanding what the vibe of your downtown area has to reflect, to resonate with these young people. First thing it has to be welcoming to diversity. If you're going to be welcome to diversity, you have to watch your colors that you're doing, your symbols and so forth, but it has to welcome diversity. The younger people also want to be educated. They don't want to waste time, what they feel is precious time, if they're not getting something out of it. So if you can create a vibe that's educational, I get something out of it. Obviously, it has to be someplace that they can go for networking. That's the third element. The fourth element might be style, art, creativity. They want to be creative. And obviously, after that, it has to be things to do. Now, there are many more criteria, but that's a starting place. The downtown area has to resonate with younger people, what their minds are. Understanding them, you can develop a downtown vibe that will be successful. Now, and that's the general stuff. Let me talk about some specific vibes about Rutland. Now, Rutland has buildings and so forth, but it doesn't have, I think, the youthful vibe that it needs to economically become vital to our state and to, obviously, to the town itself. But here's some ideas I have, specific ideas, but these ideas can be related to your own towns if you're participating in programs like that, and we all should participate. We all should be contributing to the idea that we have to revitalize and make our state, not only our towns, our state, conducive to bringing young people in, resonate for them. Here's some ideas. Downtown, instead of having a sidewalk, think about an architectural area where the sidewalks are maybe bridges or textures or pathways rather than just sidewalks. There's interest. You're going into an adventure land. Along this pathways that are downtown, you might have modules, stops, where one might be a place where you can meditate, one might be a place where you can exercise, one module might be where you can just smell aroma while you're meditating. Another place might be kiosks where you can get educational programming. Okay, and the way to afford these modules along this pathway, you would have them maybe sponsored by various companies. Companies would sponsor a module. So now when you go downtown to shop, pathways to the shop, you have this kind of adventure land. You've taken the Vermont environment and put it downtown. That it gives it vibe, gives it energy, frequency. A second idea along the same lines is what Burlington did, but not so you don't allow traffic and just make an empty space with cobblestones. Create a forest, create a mall, a sitting place with trees and foliage and bushes and places to sit and maybe fire pits, someplace you could congregate, and off this wooded area, again, are pathways to the stores, to your houses and so forth. Now you're going into downtown, you're creating an environment, a vibe of energy just from natural things. And you're resonating with the people. You're taking the nature, you're taking Vermont, and you're putting it downtown. I mean, they did it in New York in 42nd Street. 42nd Street was just a mass of traffic at one time. Now it's tables and chairs and people network. It's a place to go, a place to sit. Why don't we do that? Think about that. A third idea is in the commons area where we have the gazebo. My opinion is that the day of the gazebo is over. You can't have concerts there. The lighting is not good. The sound is not good. The seating's not good. Why don't we create a coliseum of some sort, a building that in itself has style, in itself is a design, in itself has vibe, and in that place we could have concerts. We have professional lighting, professional sound. You have seating, and you have this public area that is conducive to the kind of concerts and speeches and even acting plays that the younger people will respond to. A permanent place like that, not the gazebo. The gazebo doesn't make it, in my opinion, anymore. Rutland for attraction, has a 1930 railroad car in where the permanent farmers market is. And it gets vandalized, and we worry about covering it. It's been there for many, many years. It's just getting old. It's a waste. Why don't we take that railroad car and bring it downtown? But not just bring it downtown. Create a diorama. Create a platform. Maybe the sound of trains. You create mannequins in the period of dress. So when people look at it, you're looking at what it might appear a railroad station in 1913. Now, Rutland has a basic information, basic history of railroading. Maybe we could have a kiosk there where we would give information about railroading, the railroading background. But now you've taken an attraction which is doing nothing out in where it is now, and you're making it attractive. You're creating something to bring people downtown to the downtown area. A permanent farmers market. Before you say we have a farmers market out in a permanent one or winter one, it's in a factory building, and it's not what I'm talking about. If you go to Google and look up permanent farmers markets, you will find an amazing array of ideas. Instead of having the farmer with his vibe of his food, fresh food, coming and setting up tents or breaking up, think about a Boston market, for example, where you have permanent facility, but where the architecture itself is a vibe, has a vibe. Some stores in there, some places are permanent. Stores, whatever they might be, meeting places, restaurants. Other places are stalls where the farmer can come and present his food in an environment that has a vibe. And he adds to that vibe by bringing fresh food there. That would be my idea. I know we have, again, a permanent farmer's market or a winter farmer's market, but it's a factory building. It doesn't lend a vibe. It doesn't lend a vibe to the fresh foods that the people bring. Bring it downtown, create a permanent place, and now you have a vibe. You're adding a vibe to our downtown areas. In the green area, where that beautiful, beautiful African-American mural is on a wall, instead of having the green grass, think about a geodesic dome. The dome could be anything. It could be a planetarium. There are plenty of portable of devices that you can create stars, and so you see a star show. You can have just a motif of a forest in there, but a real motif. You can have a performer in that geodetic dome. It could be a bat cave. I've seen one in a zoo where they put the lights down, the bats think it's dark all the time, and what you have is this interesting thing to look at, okay? Rather than just what you have. Now, around this geodesic dome is a circular building, clear, so you can see outside. People can sit in there in chairs and tables, and via their phone and via their kiosk or via their iPad, they can order food from all the restaurants downtown. It's a place to network. It's a different place. It's a place to learn. It creates its own vibe. Now, urban sculpture. I know in Rutland we have the art walk, and it's great craftsmanship. It's great marble, but I don't think it resonates with young people. Now, before we argue, and I've argued this with many times, go to Google again and search urban sculptures, and you'll see what I mean. The amazing things that are being done around the country with urban sculptures. The sculpture itself not only has to have a vibe, but it has to resonate with young people. Here's my opinion. It's a little controversial. It makes no sense to me, and I think that we are putting statue up, honoring people, fine, it should be honored, honoring people that are past, that are gone to the rewards. The younger generation today is not even satisfied with the generation that's living. And they want to change everything. Certainly not going to be responsive to people who lived before. So the urban sculpture has to resonate with the young people. It has to be today's world. The piece itself has to have energy, has to have vibrance, has to have frequency in order to bring people downtown. I know it's controversial. Do what I say in terms of looking for Google, and you'll find that we have to be more enriched in what we're doing in urban sculpturing, not only in Rutland, but probably in many other towns around our state. Now, let me close. You can find the Geppetto Room after it appears on PEG on YouTube. I suggest you go and visit YouTube, Geppetto Room, and look at episode 15. In episode 15, I talked about a methodology of creating ideas, creating brainstorming. I think if you look at that, you'll be able to create better ideas. Also, in a similar vein, in a COVID-19 vein, and I want to leave that message also, is that in my episodes of 16 and 17 of the Geppetto Room on YouTube, I interview Mary Feldman. Now, Mary is an educator. She's also the executive director of PCC, but she's an educator. And in those two shows, she talked about great ideas, simple concepts that we could do, that you can make it simpler for you to teach your children at home. I know it's depressing and it's difficult to do. And when you're depressed and you're in difficulty, you're not going to be creative. So avail yourself to the information that Mary will share with you, and I think that you'll find yourself less depressed now. In the time that we have, because we're separated in COVID, same idea, and I feel strongly about this, let's try to improve ourselves. We can't be depressed. Of course, we're depressed, we're not going to be creative. We're not going to solve our problems. But using the time to love more, to get involved more, to improve ourselves more, to learn more, to create, to pursue interests that we haven't pursued before. So when we do get together, we're better people. Now with that, this is Geppetto Room, where you don't have to be creative to be creative. You just have to be you. I'm Lou Scott. I want to wish you a happy holiday. Enjoy it one moment at a time. Geppetto Room, Lou Scott. Until next time.